Borrowing capacity crashes. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee. Let's have a look at this article discussing borrowing capacity because, well, it's fallen and it's going to have an impact on property prices. Borrowing capacity slashed by a fifth. Borrowers' budgets aren't going as far as rates continue to climb, and we have looked at that in many videos, and I tend to try and make a series now of every time a bank raises rates we can see it, because we have a look here at the cash rate. There you go. This we'll be telling stories about this, guys, back in the day, but it won't be, back in the 80s we had 15% rates. It'll be back in 2020 we had under 2% rates, and they'll be shocked. Or maybe not. Maybe the central bank digital currencies will arrest us all for even having those conversations in the dystopian future. We'll have to wait and see, guys. But right now, home buyers have seen their borrowing capacity drop by more than a fifth as interest rates climb at the fastest rate in nearly 30 years. An analysis by PropTrack for The Australian showed buyers with a budget of $3,000 per month could borrow $543,000 a year ago. That's not an unreasonable amount to borrow. It's about the average mortgage size, so you'll be struggling to get a house for that, but still. Currently, they can only borrow $418,000. That's a decent fall. $3,000 a month for only $400,000, yeah. Households with a budget of $4,000 per month. Oh wait, I'm assuming that's not all. That's an entire budget. That's not what they're putting off the mortgage. Okay, that's not as scary as I looked at. I was getting real worried there, guys. Households with a budget of $4,000 per month have seen their borrowing capacity tumble from $724,000 to $558,000. Those with a budget of $5,000 per month have seen their borrowing capacity drop by more than $200,000 from $905 to $697. Now, this is going to impact property prices. And, well, if we have a look here at the SQM data for capital cities, we can see once it reloads, we can see that everything together, they've stalled a little bit, guys. They've stalled. But look at that climb. Okay, it's gone crazy. It's gone crazy. Even if we see a 20% fall, the media will amp up. 20% fall, properties crashing in 2 years' time. It's still going to be bloody expensive. And if you bought at the peak, are you going to sell just because it fell? No, you're going to hold on to it, of course, if it's your primary residency. Or, if you're doing tricky things as an investor, that's a different story. If you've been an idiot like that one guy we read an article about who bought 5 properties, interest only, and then he lost his job and had to provide rent-free accommodation for people during the lockdowns. Remember that? Well, you got to be a bit sensible about these things. It's not as easy as all the articles say and all the YouTubers will sell you their courses about. PropTrack economist Paul Ryan said the drop in borrowing power was a key driver of recent house price falls. Most people, when they're buying, do set themselves a bit of a repayment budget, depending on their circumstances, Ryan told The Australian. That guides quite strongly what they can afford and where they're looking in terms of location. So the fact that we've had borrowing capacity fall for all borrowers by now a bit more than 20% has made a big impact. The Reserve Bank has hiked rates 6 consecutive times since May, after a stretch of record low rates and cheap credit during the pandemic. Now the central bank's aggressive rate hikes, with more likely to come, have spurred banks to increase repayment expectations. James Algar, a broker for Mortgage Choice, told The Australian that fear of missing out, which spurred heightened buying activities last year, has receded. Well, yeah. And now I think we're going to start seeing fear of paying too much or fear of overpaying. FOPO. Fear of overpaying. FOOP. Hang on. Wait. Fear of overpaying. Yeah, we're going to have FOOP, guys. FOOP. Not FOMO. It's FOOP. Do you have FOOP? Talk to your doctor. There's an obvious frustration among borrowers, Algar said. Price went out of their reach last year, and now that prices are back, they can no longer borrow that amount. Borrowers are staying comfortably within their borrowing capacity rather than pushing the envelope. They are now actively seeking to reduce their budget if rates continue to rise. Prices have dropped 3.35% nationwide since the peak, although they are still 30.7% higher than they were in March 2020. That's the point, guys. 30%. 30%, a third since March 2020. Okay? That's not some distant time in the long ago. You know, this beard was just as grey back in 2020 as it is now. It's only 2 years ago. Think about it. 30%. And we're not talking some shit altcoin that shoots to the moon. We're talking a property here in Australia. So that just shows you how insane it's gone. So, of course, it's going to cool down. I just hope people don't get screwed over because they FOMO'd in based on misleading information from the RBA and government guaranteeing their house deposit. I guess there's something. I'll learn the hard way. Ryan said the reduced borrowing power would hit first home buyers the hardest, as they are less likely to have large deposits. The reduction in borrowing capacity is obviously tough because you're borrowing a bigger portion of the purchase price, he told the Australian. But the purchase price is falling because of these borrowing capacity reductions. So there we have it, everyone. Borrowing capacity down 20%. But property's still insanely high, guys. I mean, let's run a few cities here. Let's have a look. Let's check out Sydney. Yeah, we'll bring up Sydney. There you go. I mean, it's peaked and it peaked, and it's definitely coming off the peak. But I mean, look at that. Look at that. 10-year price change. What are we seeing there? 7.2%. 10-year per annum price change. All houses, 3 bedrooms, 6.7%. This is why we have a culture obsessed with property, everyone. Can you blame people? These are asking prices. Melbourne, come on, reload. 6.6% all houses in Melbourne, 10-year per annum change. There you go, and it's flattened. Can you even see that dip in apartments? Where's that gone? It's kind of disappeared. Well, it's just a little bump in the data back in 2020. What about my town? Good old Brizzy. This is the scariest one of all. Complete BS. Boom! Look at that. Yeah, everyone in Brisbane is a property genius. Buying a shitty Queenslander. Yeah, it's just genius. You've got to now pay a course to learn how to do it in Brisbane, bro. I mean, bro, dude, mate. Yeah, I mean, come on. I mean, they're pumping money now. We've got the Olympics coming as well. And the thing is, it's just the barriers to entry to building are getting more expensive because of legislation changes as well. And we've got the construction apocalypse. So all of these things are supporting the price levels of property too. So it is the first home buyers who are going to cop it. I mean, there's another article I'm tempted to look at, which is the whole story of, I'm unemployed and have 5 houses, guys. I mean, that's the culture here in Australia. Well, let's have a talk about this. So borrowing capacity is going down. It's something we have to keep an eye on because it is going to influence the asking prices here in Australia. But property is still much higher than it was just a few years ago. Now the question is, will these reductions in purchasing capacity, will it be enough to start dragging down property prices? Will people start to see reality and prices drop down? Maybe we will. Maybe some investors will have over-leveraged. Interest rates are getting a bit higher, and we'll start to see that flow on in the market. It only needs to be the most recent sale in the street that affects the valuation for everyone. This is why the market's all a bit bullshit, really. The liquidity in property, just how long it takes to get in and out, too, that's another thing you need to consider. So certainly something to keep an eye on, guys. But we'll have to see. Remember, immigration, it's ticking up. Those numbers are getting higher. And so demand will increase. Supply well, it's not going to be there. It'll take some time to ramp up. Anyway, thanks for watching. Check out my other channels, everyone. Check out HeiseBim and HeiseSays International for other content I create. And if you're a fan and want to support us, there are a few ways you can. Financially on YouTube or Patreon, using our referral links on Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve or AussieBroadband, buying our pocket squares, or calling us if you need an architect. Take care, everyone. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next episode of HeiseSays.